নমস্কার দিদি এবং সকল অতিথিদের অনেক অনেক শুভেচ্ছা রঙ্গকর্মীর পক্ষ থেকে। আজ এই সন্ধ্যায় আমরা একটি বিশেষ অনুষ্ঠান শুরু করতে চলেছি। আপনারা আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকবেন, আশা করি ভালো লাগবে। আমরা করছি নূর ইনায়েত খানের স্মরণ। নূর ইনায়েত খান, তাকে স্মরণ করছি দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধের 8 দশক পরে অবিভক্ত ভারতে এক কন্যা বিদেশে জন্মগ্রহণ করেন এবং বিদেশেই মৃত্যুবরণ করেন, কিন্তু অন্তরে ভারতবর্ষের প্রতি তার গভীর ভালোবাসা ছিল তারই সম্পদ। জন্ম 1914 এবং মৃত্যু 1944। জার্মান কনসেন্ট্রেশন ক্যাম্পে দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধের সময় ফ্যাসিজমের চূড়ান্ত বর্বরতার বিরুদ্ধে নূর ব্রিটিশ সিক্রেট সার্ভিস এজেন্ট হিসেবে কাজ শেষ করেন। জার্মানির প্রধানত ফ্রান্সে তিনি অতুলনীয় কাজ করেছিলেন মিত্র শক্তির পক্ষে। তার সাহস, বুদ্ধিমত্তা এবং দৃঢ়তা তার পুরুষ সহকর্মীদের চেয়ে অনেক অনেক বেশি ছিল। আমি অনুরোধ করছি আমাদের রঙ্গকর্মীর সদস্যা এবং উষাতি ও আমাদের অত্যন্ত প্রিয় কাছের মানুষ মৈত্রীদিকে আর সমস্ত অতিথিদের বলছি আপনারা আপনাদের আসন গ্রহণ করবেন। ধন্যবাদ।
Actually, it's not a bliss to be old. I cannot stand up, and I will say a few words sitting. Please excuse me for that. As the most veteran member of Rangakarmee, I heartily welcome everyone as Maitreyee. But I feel to use the cliche, good evening, for obvious reasons. We know times are bad indeed, but we have been carrying on our work undeterred. Our dramatic productions, one after another, raising voice against all kinds of oppression, exploitation, and historical distortion. Our effort to bring into light forgotten personalities whose commitment to some noble cause and supreme sacrifices for humanity have passed into oblivion. Noor Inayat Khan is one such person caught in the vicious grip of World War II. Born 1940, as it has been already said. Death 1944 at a German concentration camp. It was such a short span of life. What she did to challenge the monstrous atrocity of the fascist power is almost unbelievable. But her story hardly finds any space in Indian pantheon, not even a footnote. Well, actually, while I was preparing the narrative, I must acknowledge my deep regard to Srimati Savani Bosu, the London-based author of Spy Princess, The Life of Noor Inayat Khan, published by the Lotus Collection, India 2006, an imprint of Raleigh Books Private Limited. The book, based on long painstaking research, original source materials, and extensive fieldwork, is by far the most authentic account of the life and activities of Noor. The book has acted as the inspirational force for me, and it is my humble effort to present the discourse this evening to unfold the saga of Noor's life before the generations in the framework of 8 decades after the war, and particularly before you, the young generation. Noor was gifted with a rare combination of softness, gentility, the talent of writing and painting at the same time. She possessed a true heroic spirit, marked by extraordinary courage and the unflinching determination not to bow down to the most brutal adversary, the regime of Nazi Germany. We will know her as we proceed. The narrative in fact, rouses a feeling of guilt among us in true sense of the term. We, the women today, me a fossil, and you, the postmodern young ones, are equally unaware of such personality. But Noor was not the only one. The raped women of 42 Midnapur, the prostitutes in 1857 who refused to entertain the Gora Sahibs, their most valued clients, at the cost of starvation, the unknown soldiers of the Jhansi Brigade. It is a long, long list of shadowy images, and ignorance is not a blessing here. It amounts to a crime. It is 23rd January today, the birth anniversary of Shuvashree Chandra. Subhash Chandra, who believed that women are equal to men in every sphere and in all aspects. To set an example, he formed the Rani Jhansi Brigade, an army of women, a wing of the INA who fought equally with their male comrades. Therefore, today is the most befitting day for the event. And today I really feel that if I could have presented this account to Noor, or account of Noor to Usha, she would have dramatized it, as she has done in case of Mukta Raman. It is only Usha who could have done it in the background of World War II. This woman, I may call just a girl, with such a short span of life, she might have done it. In any case, I do not know whether it will be done here by the new leaders, the new performers. Let me hope so. My next present task is to say few words about the two eminent scholars and academicians who have joined us today. An awesome dimension has been added to the event. I would be very brief, as it would take hours to talk about their achievements. First, Dr. Debika Guha, the chairperson, graduation first class pass, master's degree with gold medal, B.Ed, PhD. Associate Professor, Loreto College, guest faculty, Calcutta University, member, governing body of Loreto College. She even served as an officiating principal of the college. Publication includes 4 books and many papers. She has been acknowledged as a global citizen by the Rotary International, trained in Western classical music, piano as her forte, from Royal School of Music of Trinity College, London, and an active member of Innerville Club of Greater Kolkata. An amazing, multifaceted personality. And to me, a charming daughter, ready for all kinds of support at all points of time. Next, our guest of honor, Ms. Shuvashree Chowdhury, author of 5 works of literary fictions, including novels, a collection of short stories, and 2 books of poetry. BCom degree of Delhi University and a postgraduate degree in public relations. Shuvashree has served several managerial assignments at some of the top Indian corporates in Chennai and Calcutta. Besides this, a human touch, a human aspect of her personality has really moved me. I was apprehensive that my voice might fail due to a recent ailment and of course due to age, and would not be able to deliver the presentation in proper way. She readily agreed to read it out to end my worries. Such experiences make life worth living. Flowers will be offered now on behalf of all. Now it is Shuvashree who will be reading the narration.
Before I start to read, I just want to say 2 lines on how much of effort Mrs. Maitreyee Sengupta has put towards putting the script together. You will feel it as I read. A piecemeal treatment would not be befitting for Noor's story. The historical setup, the familial background, the growing up of a daughter, the first child in a close-knit bonding of caring parents and loving siblings, with budding talents, the ups and downs of family life, construct the prologue which contains the roots of later developments. The mold had been formed in these early years. Next, Noor's life in action in various fields before she joined the British Secret Service as a wireless operator in German-occupied France. From 30s of the past century, war clouds were gathering over Europe, extreme uncertainty convulsed every sphere of life. Characteristic features of Noor's personality, which would single her out in the later days at the moment of greatest catastrophe of her life, were shaped and revealed during these years as she steered through the crisis, as if the steel was being tempered. The last chapter is about the momentous decision of her life: to thwart the aggression of the tyrant, to be in active service on the front line, that is, to join the war effort in a most effective way. As German-occupied Paris lay prostrate before her eyes. Her super brilliant record as a Secret Service agent in occupied Paris, imprisonment, death at concentration camp, brings the narrative to end as the epilogue. The familial background of Noor, the journey of Hazrat Inayat Khan, her father to the west, and the rest of the story should be viewed in the background of the contemporary times. It was indeed a period of historical juncture. In the early decades of the past century, the authority of the Raj had been firmly consolidated over India and beyond. Nascent Indian nationalism had found fruition in the founding of Indian National Congress. The umbrella organization. While the administrative policy of the Raj was influenced by the utilitarian ideas of Burke, Mill and Morley, the early Orientalist concept of a glorious India past no longer lingered. However, a new process of reassessment of the aesthetic culture of India, particularly in the spheres of literature, painting, sculpture and music, had started in the West, may be called a process of cultural and intellectual renewal. Rabindranath went to England to present the song offering to the Western audience. Acceptance of Gitanjali, its unprecedented appreciation, the support of Indianists, literateurs and scholars, W.B. Yeats, E.P. Thompson, Rothenstein, to mention a few, is a proof of the new approach, the new perception of the Western intellect and cultural psyche with regard to the East. Hazrat Inayat Khan's, Noor's father, a devout Sufi, left for the new destination to fulfill the desire of his murshid, his guru, Syed Abu Hashim Madani, to combine his music and the Sufi philosophy to bring about a better understanding between the East and the West. Sufism is a unique movement in the history of Islamic spiritual development based on principles of universal love, piety, and tolerance. Excellent musical melodies and ecstatic dance forms have gradually evolved through centuries as an ever-growing cultural legacy of Sufism. Noor's father, Inayat, was an excellent vocalist with his training of North and South Indian classical music. He belonged to a family of very high lineage, upholding values of broad liberalism, simplicity, tolerance, and symbolized a fine combination of Hindu-Muslim culture, particularly in the field of music. Inayat's maternal grandfather had married a direct descendant of Tipu Sultan's family. Tipu, the Tiger of Mysore, who had been the greatest challenger to the British in 18th century. Noor, therefore, was also a direct descendant of Tipu from her mother's side. Genetically, she represents two trends. One, the military might to challenge the aggressor. The other, a deep-rooted involvement with Indian culture. As a devout Sufi, Inayat's mission was to present musical concerts, traveling extensively within the country, preaching the ideals of Sufism. An invitation to play in New York opened the gateway to the West. New York, San Francisco, London, Paris, the Royal Musicians of Hindustan, the group of Inayat and his brothers gave regular concerts, lectures, and lessons. Finally, Paris seemed to be the desired destination. A chance meeting at Ramakrishna Mission in San Francisco brought Inayat and Ora Ray Baker, an American young woman of mixed origin, together. In spite of fierce opposition of Ora's family and hesitant attitude of the spiritually inclined Inayat, it was the passionate, self-sacrificing love of Ora Ray which made the marriage possible. Ora gave up her Western identity totally. Her name was changed to Amina Sharada after Ma Sharada Begum. Her attire was sari and veil. She tried to follow the lifestyle of an Indian wife, fragile, soft, dependent on her husband, devoted to her family and handling the official work of her husband as an efficient secretary. In 1913, the Royal Musicians of Hindustan went to Moscow at the invitation of Maxim, the famous nightclub of Moscow. Noor was born there on 1st June 1914. Moscow, with its intellectual vibrance, luxury and sophistication, dire poverty, proactive secret police of the Tsar, proved too hot on the verge of the war in 1914. A sledge ride was arranged and Inayat managed to escape with his family to London. Thus, Noor's association with the war had started since her birth. The World War I, the first greatest catastrophe of human history, culminating in World War II. And Inayat felt that he must leave Moscow and go to the West. Inayat could spread the message of Sufism and establish centers of Sufi disciples at London and different parts of Europe, even amid war crisis. Meanwhile, the Home Department of British government kept strict watch over the family. As national movement was growing in India, Mahatma Gandhi, Sarojini Naidu and other national leaders were on the scene. And nationalism was also growing in the overseas Indian community. London was not safe for Inayat, known for his association with the Indian leaders. A Dutch disciple, Madame Edgeling, bought a large house for the family situated a few miles away from the center of Paris, between River Seine and the Cathedral of Notre Dame. Inayat called it Fazal Manzil, the house of blessing. It was in this house that Noor and her siblings grew up. Two brothers and a sister, in the midst of bounties of nature, the snug comfort of their parents' affection and love, in tranquility, far from the madding crowd. Inayat started the practice of universal worship, that is, the practice to honor all religions of the world, in the large hall of Fazal Manzil with his disciples. All these must have left an indelible mark on Noor. The spirit to go beyond mundanity, the feeling of respect and tolerance for fellow beings, and to deal with the situation, however pressing it might be, with dignity. Situation was turning difficult. Inayat, the Sufi wanderer, was constantly on the move with his lecture schedules all over Europe. The mystic whose love and affection had bonded the family so long now had the sole desire to go back to India, the land of his birth. He left on the 13th of September 1926 and passed shortly thereafter. Noor's immediate next brother, Vilayat, 10 years old, was chosen to carry on the spiritual work of his father, while on Noor fell the task of looking after the family. It was a burden she bore with love till the end. After a brief visit to India in 1927, after Inayat's death, the days of hard struggle started for Noor. The family had no regular source of income except the occasional donations from Sufi establishments and affluent disciples. The children were too young. Noor, the eldest, just 12. On the top of all, her mother, Amina Begum, totally retired from activities of life and took refuge in utter seclusion. Noor's studies had started in a local school. She had to balance between her studies and family duties. All her talents developed during this period of germination. She would write beautiful poems about her near ones, poems which are subtle expressions of her love and selflessness, about flowers, fairies, mermaids with an ethereal flavor and stories for children with fine illustrations. Very soon, she was known in the literary circles of Paris and was asked to translate the Jataka tales, a task she performed most eagerly. A prolific writer, she wrote in both English and French and regularly contributed to the children's page of the famous newspaper Sunday Figaro. Her stories were broadcast on the children's hour of Radio Paris. Music was in her blood. She was a vocalist, pianist, and a skilled player of the veena. She joined the famous Music Academy of Paris and got the training from renowned personalities. She studied the harp, the piano, harmonic analysis and harmony. She was there for 6 years. Not lagging in academic fields, Noor studied child psychology at the Sorbonne University of Paris. She got her degree from there. During all these years, 1926 to 1939, the image of Noor which gradually developed was of an extremely caring daughter and sister, a dreamy writer of poems and stories for children. A pretty delicate young woman, shy and introvert, never exposing herself before the motley of Sufi crowd visiting Fazal Manzil on and off. Brother Vilayat was her closest companion, a strong emotional support always, and the two of them loved doing things together. Vilayat cherished these moments till the last and provided much valuable information about Noor to Shravani Basu, hitherto unknown. But underneath the outward layer lay a base of strong determination. Noor wanted to forge a different identity for herself. She went to university for higher studies, to the Music Academy in the mixed company of male and female students of various origins, and quietly crossed the borders of a traditional, conservative Muslim household. The specific space for women set by her uncles. She remained respectful to them, but did what she wanted to do. She fell in love during this time, but love too was not a blissful experience. Goldberg, her fiancé, a fellow student of the Music Academy, was a Turkish Jew belonging to the lower strata of society. The relationship lasted for years, but was a period of real torment for Noor. There was fierce disapproval from her family and from the Sufi fraternity. Noor had to undergo emotional breakdown quite often due to the overbearing attitude of Goldberg. Committed as she was, she continued the relationship stubbornly. The poems written during these days express her deep sensitivity and suffering. In spite of family troubles and the unhappy engagement, Noor achieved success in the literary world. The Jataka Tales, her first book, was published in England in 1939. She wrote profusely about inspirational personalities like Akbar, Shaliman, Mirabai, and got the offer of publishing a children's newspaper along with a famous journalist of Paris. Her mother, Amina Begum, was in a process of recovery, and it seemed all is well with the world. As if suddenly Paris fell a prey to German guns. German invasion had started in March 1939, but life in Paris had not been affected much in the early months. By June, German troops were knocking at the doors of Paris. It was a period of acid test for Noor and her siblings. Brought up with the Sufi ideals of non-violence, peace and tolerance. Noor's literary pursuits were stalled. Their beloved city of Paris lay prostrate at the feet of the aggressor, and as first-hand witness of German atrocities, they felt they must join the war effort as best as possible. Vilayat told Shravani Basu about the afternoon when the brother and sister took the decision to thwart the aggression of the tyrant, to leave Paris and to go to England. The Battle of Britain had begun. General de Gaulle had set up office of French resistance at London, the centre to organize attack against Germany. Surely England was the destination to fulfill their mission. Noor took the final decision about her personal life also at this time. She broke off the engagement with Goldberg, a relationship of 6 years, because she wanted freedom to go into action on the front line, if necessary. Flight was harrowing and hazardous as the exodus of the civilians of France flooded the ways of escape amid repeated swooping of German jets and bombers. The family reached London. The phase, Noor in action, started there in the ambience of air raids, blackout paper, ration cards. She was determined to take up military training to join the war effort, an instantaneous decision prompted by the urgency of the war situation. The details of her rigorous military training, the remarkable advance step by step, proves her determination to be of real use, to do something positive, not the usual jobs specified for women like nursing or serving in the hospitals. The war situation also demanded a new role for women. With men fighting in the fields, women should be trained to take up their jobs. The Women's Auxiliary Air Force, WAAF, was created in 1939 to train women as teleprinter operators, plotters, and radar operators for British Air Force Station, the Royal Air Force RAF stations. Noor volunteered to join it. A month later, she was sent to a higher centre at Edinburgh for 6 months to be trained as a wireless telegraphist. A few months later, Noor was an aircraft's woman first class, her record always marked by grade A. The highly technical job, the regimental aspect of service life, physical discomfort because she had to wear shoes 2 sizes larger than normal for chilblains. She was unable to use her fingers or feet freely for handling the Morse code or to carry on drills. That did not deter her. She failed at times but worked hard at her training. Her family life was fraught with problems then. Growing sickness of her mother, the failure of Vilayat to join the RAF due to weak eyesight, the dire financial crisis of the war years had been a constant pressure. Yet Noor could sketch out a new identity as if she reinvented herself in the new surroundings. Not the subservient daughter of a Sufi household, neither the dreamy writer of the literary circles of Paris. She was now Noor Inayat Khan, her religion, Church of England. All these she did to avoid complications to join the war effort wholeheartedly. Probably she felt a sense of freedom and purpose in the steel frame of camp life later on at the war front. Face to face with the enemy, 1940 to 1942 were the most crucial and eventful years of the war. July 1940 marked the full operation of Germany in Britain, the invasion of Britain, the only country which had stood up against Nazi aggression till then, started with the Operation Sea Lion. The SOE, or the Special Operations Executive, was founded at this crucial moment. Different from the regular security organizations like the MIF, which dealt with security at home, and MI6 or the SIS, the Secret Intelligence Service. The SOE was absolutely a new kind of secret service that would sabotage the German war efforts and help the resistance fighters in the conquered countries alongside sea blockade and air bombardment. Main objective of SOE was to start a full-scale operation to deal a death blow to the Nazi regime at occupied France. Secretly, through all means, espionage, military action, common and uncommon. With a nucleus of highly trained, technically skilled personnel, SOE had started action in France. Agents were sent to France regularly for preparing the ground for invasion of France. The F section of the French section of the SOE was entrusted with the job. Noor joined the department when she was recruited by the SOE. The essential qualifications for a SOE agent was language skill, rugged honesty, quick presence of mind, power to take decisions, and steadfastness of purpose to counter the dreadful German security police and the German-French militia in the extremely dangerous surroundings of occupied Paris. Not satisfied merely with the training of WAAF, Noor Inayat Khan felt restless. She was too far away from real action where guns were blazing, and she must take the decisive step. She applied for commission to join the course for the position of officer in army and was called for interview in August 1942 before the board of SOE. In 1942, as we all know, is the watershed in the history of the nationalist struggle in India. The Congress leaders had initially supported the war against the fascist powers, but the demand for independence had also reached its height in India. The situation in India had reached a point of no return due to British policy of repression. The Quit India movement had burst forth like a volcanic eruption in August 1942. The same month, Noor appeared before the board of SOE. 28th August 1942, may we call it the cross moment. It was obvious the board would ask her about her views towards India and Indian independence. Her clear answer was, Indians should just be allowed to defend themselves, and a sort of an armed home guard should be organized for the purpose. She was asked whether she would support Indian leaders who defied British authority. Her answer was forthright. She would support any Indian leader in a step that was just and necessary according to the situation. To the board, it was sacrilege. She was going against her oath of allegiance to the crown. Again, she firmly answered that her loyalty to the crown and the government would be there till the war against Germany was going on. After the crisis, her views might change. In a different situation altogether, she would support India against Britain in the fight for independence. Jepson, the chief recruitment officer, said later on that he was struck by the small, still features, the dark, quiet eyes, and the spirit to tell the truth frankly. Noor was sure that she had lost her chance, but the SOE called her for the final interview. October 1942. November 1942, Noor, the bilinguist par excellence in French and English, was recruited as a secret agent of the SOE in the war against fascism. During the tumultuous times, Noor had remained the caring daughter, looking after Amina Begum, sick and fragile. She would spend free time with Amina and was the only financial support for the family with a meager allowance. She and Vilayat became closer still, and her colleagues admired her concern for her family. She presented a copy of Nehru's An Autobiography to Vilayat on his birthday, June 1941. She had chosen the violent option in the war. At any moment she might be wanted to in active service in the front line. Even then, the struggle for Indian independence was in her mind. She would discuss the situation in India, Gandhi and Nehru, with Joan Murray's, a WAAF colleague, a close confidant who also had connection with India. A brief discussion about the military secret service would unfold the details encompassing the job necessary for the lay reader. After signing the Official Secrets Act, she joined the special trainings of SOE schools. One after another spread over Scotland and England. Her military training included physical training, Morse code, map reading, handling of firearms, and methods of unarmed combat. Passing through a rigorous training of these basics, she was chosen for special training for deciphering codes almost impenetrable, an advanced method of radio transmission involving high mathematics and trigonometry. Finally, at the Bolian School, the classic spy school, she learned how to carry on work and survive in the country of the enemy, to keep contact with her comrades, to pass messages, to set up radio aerials. She had to learn French mannerism to the minutest detail. The ordeal of facing mock interrogations of the dreadful Gestapo, the German secret police. Reports from her training officers describe Noor as timid, not quick, but earnest, extremely conscientious, hardworking, inspired by a spirit of idealism and sacrifice, and would indeed rise to the occasion. The period of training is marked by Noor's strength of character and positive attitude. She was finally chosen as an SOE wireless operator, the most valuable link in the chain of operations of Secret Service. Paris was the destination because of her language skills, understanding of French culture and her familiarity with the French lifestyle. She had to stay at Bristol for a final training push to make arrangements for her stay and work in Paris. At Bristol, however, superior SOE officers had the feeling that Noor was too emotional and indiscreet, lacking proper sense of security, too beautiful to attract attention to herself, far too conspicuous. Her performance at Paris on the field belies these observations as the final phase of her life and career was marked by brilliant performance, unprecedented bravery, and supreme self-sacrifice. The units of SOE were called circuits. The Prosper Circuit was the most important one, working on Paris with largest number of agents. Noor was the first woman radio operator to be flown into occupied France. She was given a cover story. Her code name was Madeleine. Her radio post Madeleine. She met her family for the last time and told them that she was going out of the country on an important mission and might not be able to keep correspondence. She left the name and address of an officer of SOE for Vilayat who was not there then. 16th or 17th of June, Noor and her two comrades Cecily and Diana landed at Paris. Later, all of them shared the same fate, execution at German concentration camps. The Prosper Circuit meanwhile had become very active in Paris with its huge number of agents. It had organized 2 successful sabotages in the power stations nearby. At the same time, its wide activities had attracted the attention of Germans. 2 Canadian agents of Prosper were caught by the Gestapo, who provided them with all contact details. Within 2 days, 3 colleagues of Noor, the key pillars of Prosper, were in German custody. Noor was alone, trying hard to transmit to London. Safil and Norman, the 2 arrested colleagues of Noor, cracked down under the pressure of Gestapo interrogations, and the Germans got information about the radio operator Madeleine. All the information about Prosper Circuit lay bare before the Germans. All its leaders were arrested, their equipment captured, and other circuits blown off. Noor was the last link with Paris. She refused the offer to return to London, got a small room in a residential complex at central Paris, occupied by the German SS officers with a fake identity, and carried on transmission most cautiously. Germans hell-bent to find her out were dodged by her thrice. Once in a Paris street, she managed to flee to a hideout while the Gestapo was following. She transmitted throughout August. Post-Madeleine thus became crucial to the war effort from August to October. She was found out one night while hanging the radio aerial from a tree on the pavement. A German officer from one of the flats offered his help. Noor coolly accepted it, posing as an innocent French lady who wanted to listen to music on the wireless. She changed her dress style and hairstyle constantly to evade the Nazis, but ultimately fell a prey to betrayal, wrong messages from London office, betrayal of her colleagues finally. The damned report of a French woman, Renée, revealed all information about Noor for money. Renée was promised 100,000 francs for the job. 1/10 of the amount the Germans gave for capture of British agents. To recapitulate, the military details so unfamiliar to us, I repeat, from July to September, Noor was like a hunted animal, constantly chased by the Gestapo, but her service was exemplary. She had sent over 20 messages to London, extremely important, facilitated the safe escape of Allied airmen, and tried hard to build up the Prosper Circuit which had been destroyed. She might have achieved final success if her colleagues had not betrayed her. SOE London office, totally ignorant of the deception, of Germans arranged a meeting of Noor with German agents. They sent Noor straight to the Germans. Early October, the Gestapo rampaged her flat and finally caught up with Noor. This happened when she had been persuaded by the London office to leave for England in spite of her strong objection. As the Germans forcibly entered her flat, a scene of fierce physical violence followed. The dreamy soft girl fought like a tigress and was outnumbered at the point of guns. That too at the last moment when she was going to leave for England. Imprisoned at the servants' quarters of the building, Noor made desperate bids to escape, climbing the bathroom window, standing on the edge of a roof, or using a rope ladder from the rooftop. But the efforts failed. The efforts of the German officers, too much physical violence, psychological pressure, also failed to totally to extract any information from Noor, termed as a very dangerous prisoner. She did not reveal anything, not even her name. On direct instructions from Berlin, Noor, the first British woman agent, was next sent to German prison of Pforzheim, branded as a criminal doomed not to return alive. Records of eyewitnesses provide the evidence of a caged woman condemned to absolute seclusion with chained hands and feet, kept on sour cabbage and potato peel soup. Lowest rations, never allowed to go out of the cell. Her hands and feet were chained together, so she could not even stand straight. Yet Noor could send messages to her fellow prisoners, scratching on the food bowl. They also did the same, and the messages became Noor's only contact with the outside world. Meanwhile, German espionage agents used Noor's wireless sets, deciphered her codes, sent regular messages to London asking for money, arms, supplies, posing as Noor. Secret Service agents from London were sent to Germany prompted by their fake calls and were all executed. Most vital information of the Allied powers with regard to the war thus passed into the hands of the enemy, while Noor had passed 4 months in jail. Her last message on the food bowl discovered from her clothes was, "I'm leaving." 3 other female SOE agents, fellow prisoners of Noor, Elaine, Madeleine, Damerament and Yolande, with whom she exchanged messages, also had to leave. Their destination, the concentration camp at Dachau. They shared the same fate. Elaine, Madeleine and Yolande had worked as committed resistance workers before being arrested. They met their end early next morning, dragged out of their cells and shot near the crematorium. Noor was the last one to be given the full treatment of torture and indignity after 10 months of imprisonment. On 15 September 1944, stripped, battered and bruised and extremely abused, Noor remained defiant and did not open her mouth. Exasperated and tired, the German officer Rupert shot her on the head while she was shouting "Liberty" at his face, her final words. Contemporary evidences confirmed that Noor was tortured utmost. The aftermath is also tragic. The end of the war brought in a period of utter chaos and confusion. Records were lost or destroyed, evidences are missing, and Noor was considered missing along with thousands of others by the War Office till 1946. Vera Atkins, the second officer of the French section of SOE, had been in charge of sending the agents to France. She had developed a great liking for Noor and carried on a relentless effort to trace Noor and her three colleagues. By 1949, she could find out that all the four had been executed at the Dachau concentration camp. The news was confirmed from various sources, including German SS soldiers, officers, friends and relatives of the victims, and later investigations carried on by journalists like Elizabeth Nicholas. In 1949, Noor was posthumously awarded the George Cross, the highest civilian honor in Britain. The citation states that she displayed the most conspicuous courage, both moral and physical, holding the principal and the most dangerous post in France. The French had presented their highest civilian award to Noor earlier, the Croix de Guerre, the Cross of Excellence, with Gold Star in 1946, the citation signed by General de Gaulle, the legendary hero of French resistance and the World War II. A plaque at the crematorium in Dachau, at St. Paul's Church, London, the Royal Air Force Memorial at Hyde Park Corner, and a special plaque outside her childhood home at Fazal Manzil bear proudly the name of Noor. A square near Fazal Manzil has been named after her. Every year, a military band plays there on 14th July, Bastille Day, in memory of the young Indian woman, a symbol of martyrdom to the French people. She is in oblivion in India. Reference to her would hardly arouse any response in the Indian psyche. Shravani Basu's work may be regarded the act of atonement, going through the personal files of SOE agents, files of Noor and her compatriots released recently, and the SOE archives. She has successfully etched out a portrait of Noor, the image of courage. Personal meetings with brothers of Noor have enabled her to present the other side of the picture of the soft, dreamy girl, loving and caring, bearing the responsibilities of the family of dependent mother and siblings, the writers of children's stories and poems, and a trustworthy friend, Madame de Gaulle Antonio, President, Association of Internees of French Resistance, has commented about Noor. It is our fight that she chose, a fighter of French liberation forces, for all of us, for the children of our country. What a marvelous example. Shravani, the Indian woman, might have understood what her heroine must have felt during the World War about the monstrosity of Nazism and about the struggle for Indian independence in its perspective. Noor's story is inspirational for her, she claims. It is inspirational for us as well. We, the women of India, may be the women of the world. Thank you.
Now it's our job, the chairperson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think all of us need a moment after this presentation where we need to, I think, seep in the horrific reality of this brilliant person that we heard. However, I have a job, I have a responsibility, and I'm sorry I'm not giving that moment to you, but I really feel we need that, but we have to get on with the evening. Foremost, I would like to thank Rangakarmee for inviting me to chair this session. I'm extremely grateful to you, and I'm very grateful to Mashi, Mrs. Maitreyee, Sengupta, for giving me this opportunity to interact with you and to be here this evening. I am calling her Mrs. Maitreyee Sengupta, but often I will call her Mashi because that's what I have said since her daughter and myself, we studied in Gokhale Memorial Girls School from the age of 4 till today. I also would like to thank Mrs. Shuvashree Chowdhury, who I met this evening, and then I heard the narration. Thank you, Shuvashree, for the presentation. It was a 14-page article which was written by Mrs. Sengupta, and Shuvashree, I don't think anyone could have read it better than you have, and thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your patient hearing, and I congratulate Mashi, Mrs. Maitreyee Sengupta, for writing this article so beautifully. A heart-rendering, heart-touching story and a reality, horrific one, but a reality. I would like to throw the floor open for questions. কারো কোনো যদি প্রশ্ন থাকে আপনারা প্লিজ সেই প্রশ্ন আমাদের সামনে তুলে ধরুন. I appeal to you, if you have any questions, clarifications, doubts, please present it before the author of this article today, and she will respond to it. So may we have the questions, please, or any comment, any doubts, anything that you wish to share, any sharing. So I throw the floor open.
বলো তোমরা কিছু কি মনে হয়েছে এটা পড়ে? আসলে তোমরা এতটাই ছোট যে দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধ যে কি ভয়ঙ্কর, কি ভয়াবহ ছিল তোমরা জানো না। ইয়ার্স হ্যাভ পাসড অন। সেই যে বিশ্বজোড়া একটা সংকট, তার মধ্যে একটি মেয়ে সে বড় হচ্ছে বিদেশে, এবং কি ট্র্যাডিশনে সে বড় হচ্ছে। তার বাবা সেই দেশ ছেড়ে চলে এলো, তার 4টি সন্তান ছেড়ে চলে এলো। এত কেয়ারিং, এত অ্যাফেকশনেট ফাদার হি ওয়াজ, বাট হি মাস্ট কাম ব্যাক টু হিজ ল্যান্ড অফ গড। আজকের দিনে এটা বিশ্বাস হয়। And he died as if he came just for that. And so far as Noor and Inayat were concerned, ওদের তো ওই সুফি ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডটা ছিল। সুফি means liberalism, Sufi means tolerance. Sufi would approach God through music and dance, যেটা after Islam haram, এটা চলবে না। And now you know that Sufis are in everywhere, পুরো সেন্ট্রাল এশিয়া, পুরো মানে এখানে ইস্টার্ন সাইডে সমস্ত জায়গায় সুফিরা আক্রান্ত, কারণ ইসলামের ওই লিবারাল ফেসটা রাখছে। সেই জন্য আই ফিল দ্যাট উই শুড, দিস ইজ রিয়েল হিস্টরি, and distortion of a history, yes, conflicts have been there for all times, but there is the other side of the picture. No? I think you should know about these things. Now, but you must say something.
Yes, thank you. আপনাদের কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে বা কোনো কমেন্ট অর এনি ওপিনিয়ন?
ম্যাম, কমেন্ট কিছু না, কিন্তু আজকে ভালো লাগছে যে আজকে একটা বিশেষ দিন, সুভাষচন্দ্র বসুর আজকে 129th বার্থডে সেলিব্রেশন, সেই দিনই আমরা একজন ফ্রিডম ফাইটার বলা যায় তাকে আমরা স্মরণ করছি। এটা বিশেষ দিন আমাদের রঙ্গকর্মীর আমাদের মনে থাকবে। আর আরেকটা কথা যে আমাদের এই যে তার যে ইতিহাস জানলাম, অতীব কষ্ট লাগছে যে তার টাইম স্প্যানটা, তার টাইম কত কম। 30 বছরের মধ্যে সে এত কিছু করলো। সে শুধু ফ্রিডম ফাইটার ছিলেন না, তিনি ক্রিয়েটিভিটি পার্সনে ছিলেন। তো এই জন্য এত কষ্ট যে সে আমাদের দেশ স্বাধীনটাও দেখে যেতে পারলো না। 44-এ চলে গেল, 47-এ আমাদের দেশ স্বাধীন হলো। তো এইটা তো বিশেষভাবে আমাদের কাছে খুবই প্যাথেটিক মনে হলো এটাতে। আর দিদিকে অনেক অনেক অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ, আপনাদের এন্টায়ার টিমকে, যে আমরা একটা বিশেষ মানুষের গল্প আমরা জানতে পারলাম। উষাদি যদি থাকতেন, আমার মনে হয় দৃঢ় বিশ্বাস থাকতেন, উষাদি এখানে কিন্তু একটা থিয়েটার করতেন, করতেন। উষাদি মেয়েদের নিয়ে তো, মেয়েদের সম্বন্ধে তো বিভিন্ন সেলিব্রিটিদের নিয়ে, বিভিন্ন তাদের প্রবলেম নিয়ে তো উষাদি কাজ করেছেন। ম্যাক্সিম গোর্কির মা আমাদের করেছেন, আমাদের লাস্ট হয়ে গেল হিম্মত মাই, আমরা যেটা দেখালাম স্ক্রিনে, লোককথার যে নারী চরিত্র। তো এই যে ওনাকে যদি আমরা উষাদি পেতেন, হয়তো তখন তো পেতেন না, উষাদি তো 44-এ, তো উষাদি জন্ম তো 45-এ, আর উনি তো চলে গেলেন 44-এ,
কিন্তু সবটাই ও
জানতো। কিন্তু উষাদি যদি থাকতেন, আজকের যদি অনুষ্ঠানে উষাদি থাকতেন, আমাদের দৃঢ় বিশ্বাস যে এটি মঞ্চ। এটুকু বলার, আপনাদের অনেক ধন্যবাদ। আমাদের সবাইকে এত সুন্দর একটা প্রেজেন্টেশন দিল, আমার মনে রাখবো। আর কিছু আমার কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন নেই, আপনারা তো সুন্দর করে বললেন, আর কিছু বলার নেই। ভীষণই ভালো লাগলো বলছি। আপনাদের সবাইকে অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
থ্যাংক ইউ। আর কারোর কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে? আপনি যেটা বললেন না, আমি না কালকে সন্ধ্যাবেলায় আমি এটাই চিন্তা করছিলাম যে আমি তো নূর ইনায়েত খানের বিষয়ে আগে আমি জানতাম। So this is the first time I read it because Mrs. Sengupta sent me this, and I read this. I read this a couple of days back, and I was thinking yesterday evening that this is an honor that we are giving Netaji. That on his, jeta apni bollen, that on his birth anniversary, we are talking of a woman who had the same ideals and values as Netaji, who gave up her life the way Netaji has given up his life. So you have chosen, Rangakarmee has chosen absolutely a befitting day to present this article to people who will value this. সেটা আমিও আপনার সঙ্গে একমত, যে আমিও সেটা চিন্তা করছিলাম। আর কারো কিছু আপনাদের যদি কিছু বলার থাকে, প্লিজ। হ্যাঁ প্লিজ।
আমি বলছিলাম কি, আমি ফার্স্ট টাইম শুনলাম ওনার ব্যাপারে। আমি নূর ইনায়েত খানের ব্যাপারে জানতাম না, কিন্তু
কিছু জানতাম না।
কিন্তু আমার এটা
বইটা দেখে এই শ্রাবণী বসু অসম্ভব ভালো লেখে। উনি লন্ডনে আনন্দবাজার গ্রুপে করেসপন্ডেন্ট। উনি ওই খুঁজে বার করেন। লন্ডন যাওয়া মানে তো ফিশ ফ্রাই খাওয়া, ইত্যাদি বাকি ও ওখানেই থাকে এবং অসম্ভব কাজ করে। বলো তুমি।
তো আমার এই প্রশ্নটা ছিল, আমি ভাবছি ওইটুকু বয়সে উনি এত ক্রিয়েটিভ ছিলেন, কিন্তু উনি ওই জায়গা থেকে সরে ওই নিজের দেশের জন্য লড়ার জন্য, মানে কি ভেবে উনি ওই ডিসিশনটা নিলেন যে এসওইতে উনি জয়েন করবেন?
এটা ওর ভাই যে বিরায় শ্রাবণী বসুকে বলেছে যে ওরা প্যারিসকে ভীষণ ভালোবাসত, কারণ প্যারিসে ইনফ্যাক্ট মানে যে সিনেমা থাকতো সেটা প্যারিস থেকে অনেক দূরে। তো ভীষণ সুন্দর একটা বাড়ি, অসম্ভব ফুল ফুটেছে তার মাঝখানে। ওদের they had a very simple life, but very, খুব কম্প্যাশনেট একটা ইয়েতে বড় হয়েছে। At the same time, যেখানে বলা হচ্ছে যে she represented two trends. একটা হচ্ছে involvement with Indian culture, আরেকটা হচ্ছে the might of Tipu Sultan. তোমরা ইতিহাসে পড়েছো তো, that he was the only threat to the British. এই টিপু সুলতানের তোমরা যারা মাইসুরে দেখেছো, ওর পয়েন্ট হচ্ছে ইন্ডিয়ান টাইগার মলিং ব্রিটিশ। তারপর যখন ব্রিটেন নিল যুদ্ধ করে, মানে সেই চূড়ান্ত যুদ্ধ, তার গায়ে নাকি চামড়া খুঁজে পাওয়া যায়নি, এত রক্ত যুদ্ধে ওইখানে মারা যায়। ওর ছেলে আবার মারা গেল 1857 সিপাহী বিদ্রোহের সময়। তো সেই যে একটা সাংঘাতিক ডিটারমিনেশন টু ফাইট এগেইনস্ট দ্য অ্যাগ্রেসর, আমি আমার দেশও মাথায় থেকে পড়ে দুটো ট্রেন্ড
আমার শুনে এত সাহসী লাগলো ওনার ব্যাপারে জেনে। আমি যেটুকুনি এখন আপনাদের থেকে জানতে পারলাম, এবার ঘরে গিয়ে আমি ওটা ওনার ব্যাপারে আরও ডিটেলিংয়ে আমি পড়বো, আরও ভালো করে জানার চেষ্টা করব যে অত কম বয়সে উনি ওইভাবে, মানে আমি ভাবতে পারছি না ওই সাহসটা কিভাবে জেলে উনি কাটিয়েছেন। তো
she wrote at the age of 40.
Noor Inayat Khan?
Yes. দেখো কিরকম সেই সফট ড্রিমি মেয়ে যে এই কবিতা লিখছে।
আমি ওর কবিতা, ওনার লেখা কবিতাটা পড়ছি। নুর ইনায়াত খান লিখেছে
14 বছর বয়সে।
14 বছর বয়সে। The lamp of joy. A mermaid once went in a ship upon the stormy sea, and as she sailed along the waves arose a spring in glee. For on the ship she hung a lamp which gave a light so sweet that anyone who saw its glow with joy was sure to meet.
দেখো এই তার লেখা। আর ওই she was battered, abused, kicked throughout the night, and all the time she was saying no, I don't. She did not give her name. ওর নাম পর্যন্ত ওরা জানেনি, নাম পর্যন্ত জানতে পারেনি। যেখানে ক্র্যাক করে যাচ্ছে সেই সাটিল আর নরমাল যারা খুব শক্ত পোক্ত গোয়েন্দা, তারা ক্র্যাক করে গিয়ে সব বলে দিচ্ছে, ও কিচ্ছু কিচ্ছু। আর রাত্রে নাকি ওর সবিং, সারাদিন এই চলতো, রাত্রে ওর সফট সবিং, আব্বা আব্বা, অদ্ভুত চরিত্র। আর আমরা কিচ্ছু জানি না।
কিছু জানি না বলে আমাদের নিজেদের একটু, মানে আমার মনে হচ্ছে আপনি যেরকম মুক্তারা মায়ের কথা আমাদের জানিয়েছিলেন, এবং তারপর হাম মুক্তারা তৈরি হয়েছিল ঐশাদি, এবং সেটা অনেক জায়গায়, ভারতবর্ষের সব জায়গায় আমরা প্লে করেছি। তো সেটা নিয়ে যে আমরা ঘুরেছি, সবাইকে তো জানিয়েছি, এইভাবেই জানাটা শুরু হয়। আপনি জানিয়েছিলেন প্রথমে, এর কথাও আপনি প্রথমে জানালেন। আমি একটু প্রথমে সকলের কাছে ক্ষমা চাই, আমি আজকে অনেক দেরিতে পৌঁছেছি, স্পেশালি মৈত্রীদির কাছে ক্ষমা প্রার্থী।
আমি আইছি আর তার স্বামী এসে পৌঁছেছে স্টেটস থেকে, আজকে
এসে পৌঁছেছে, তার জন্য দেরি হয়নি। আমি বেরিয়েছি যখন ওই ওলা উবের, তারা রিফিউজ করলো, দুটো পরপর রিফিউজ করলো। তারপর যেটাতে কোনো মতে উঠলাম, সেটা একটা জ্যামের রাস্তা দিয়ে ঢোকালো, মানে আমি এসে পৌঁছেছি কোনো মতে।
ও আমাদের ও নিজের অত্যন্ত ভালো অভিনেত্রী, ওর নামও তৃপ্তি মিত্র, সেই জন্য আমরা ওকে রানী বলে থাকি।
তৃপ্তি মিত্র অ্যাকচুয়ালি 1977-এ আমার নাম দিয়েছিলেন রানী, সেই থেকে থিয়েটারের তলে আমাকে চেনে রানী মিত্র নামে, কিন্তু অরিজিনালি আমি তৃপ্তি মিত্র। তো আপনার বলাটা ভীষণ ভালো লেগেছে, আপনি যে প্রত্যেকটি কথার মানে বোঝা যাচ্ছে, খুব ভালো বলছেন।
ও শুধু মানে কলকাতায় বেশি থাকেনি বলে যাতায়াত করতে, মানে বৌদ্ধ ধর্মে যেগুলো যাতায়াতের কাহিনী পড়েনি, যে বুদ্ধদেবের বারবার জীবন নিচ্ছেন, জীবন হচ্ছে টু বি পারফেক্ট, নির্বাণ পাওয়ার জন্য তার বিদ্যালয়ের গল্প যাতে সেইগুলো ইংরেজিতে আর লিখেছে। সেই কেবল বলে যতক কি দেখ
খুবই ভালো পড়েছে,
মানে কিভাবে। আর ও আমার দেখো খুব বুড়ো বয়সেও অনেক কিছু পাওয়ার থাকে, এই যে ওকে পেয়েছি, এই তো চিরকালই ছিল। আর এত বুড়ো হয়ে গেছে, তবু বুড়োদের সাথে মিশে আমি খুব একটা আনন্দ পাই।
আমরা এখানে আসি তো ওই ইয়ংদের সঙ্গে মেশার জন্যই, আমরা
এই যে চকচকে মুখ
বয়স হয়ে গেল এখন, কিন্তু আসি এদের সঙ্গে মিশে একটা এনার্জি পাওয়ার জন্য। আমরা এনার্জিটা পাই,
আপনারা এনার্জিটা দেন আমাদের,
আমরাও পাই, উল্টে রেসিপ্রোকেট হয়, দুজনেই দুজনকে দিই।
ও মানে সমস্ত কিছু নখদর্পণে ছিল, কোথায় ড্রেস থাকবে, কোন ট্রাঙ্কের মধ্যে কি থাকবে, আর তার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে দিবেন উষার মানে সবচেয়ে বড় সাপোর্ট।
81 থেকে 1981 থেকে উষাদির সঙ্গে
আমি আগে অনেক এসেছি।
আমি কি বলতে এলাম জানি
আপনি কিছু বলতে এসেছেন?
বলতে এসেছি মানে হ্যাঁ, এইখানে এই মেয়েটির সম্বন্ধে আমরা জানতাম না, সেটা জেনে তো ভীষণ ভালো লাগলো। এবং সত্যি উষাদি থাকলে আমরা চেষ্টা করতাম,
এটা হতো
এটা হতো
এটা হতো
কিছু।
ও একা পারতো, ওর গ্রুপ নিয়ে ও একা পারতো। আমি তো বলেছিলাম যে
নতুন ছেলে মেয়েও যারা এসছে এদের পেলে উষাদি খুব খুশি
আরে
হবে,
এই যে
কেননা এরা
নতুন
নতুন ছিল না,
নাটকটা
এরা সবাই উষাদিকে দেখেনি, কিন্তু এরা উষাদির আশীর্বাদ পেয়ে এবং অনিরুদ্ধ খুব ভালো
একেবারে।
এদেরকে গাইড করে।
এত ভালো, সেই ডিসিপ্লিন, সেই মানে দুপুরবেলা থেকে রিহার্সাল, কি সামান্য ওরা কোনো রকম ওদের নেই, কি সামান্য জিনিস ওরা খায়। দিনের পর দিন কেউ ক্লাস করে, কেউ অফিস করে, কেউ বাড়ির বাবা মায়ের দায়িত্ব সামলে এসে কাজগুলো করে। এই নতুন নতুন নাটকটা তুমি দেখবে, আমি
16 মার্চ একাডেমি অফ
ওটা একদম তোমার কাছে, লোরেটো কলেজ খুব কাছে। আর তুমি তো জানি আমি যদি কাজে যাব আমি জানাবো তোমাকে।
চান্দা বেদনি থেকে আরেকটা আছে 9 ফেব্রুয়ারি পশ্মিনা, সেটাও হলো নাটক, সাজিদা সাজি ডিরেকশন আছে এবং অনিরুদ্ধ তারপর এখন ডিরেকশন, মানে এদেরকে শেখানোর কাজটা অনিরুদ্ধ নিয়ে নিয়েছে। সাজিদা দিদি তো এখন নেই এখানে কলকাতায়।
কথা চললে খুব ভালো লাগতো, কিন্তু সময়ও তো চলে যায় তার সাথে সাথে। সুচেতনা রঙ্গকর্মী মানে বলতে পারি উষার দায়িত্বটা ওর পুরো নিয়েছে। ওখানে চেয়ার দাও, ম্যাডাম বসবেন, আচ্ছা ম্যাডাম উঠেছেন, চেয়ার সরাও, যেতে গেলে পায়ে লাগবে। ও তোমাদের
এগুলো দেখার জন্য তো লোক দরকার।
সময় আছে কি?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ আছে।
উনি কিছু বলতে চান, আমি একটু অ্যাড করবো আপনি যেটা বলছিলেন। হ্যাঁ, যে how did she have the courage at this young age? So when I was reading, please বসুন, when I was reading it, I was also thinking of the same thing. যে when she gave her interview for the special operations executive, ব্রিটিশদের সামনে ইন্টারভিউ দিচ্ছেন, আর তখন ব্রিটিশরা বলছে যে অ্যালিজেন্স কি আমাদের সঙ্গে আছে না ইন্ডিয়ার সঙ্গে আছে? বলছে এখন আমি আপনাদের সঙ্গে আছি ফাইট করার জন্য, বাট when this war is over, I will be with my brothers and sisters in India to fight against you. এখন আমি আপনাদের কাছে এসেছি আমার সার্ভিসেস রেন্ডার করার জন্য, কিন্তু যখন
I want to fight against Nazism.
yes, because I want to go against the tyrant, the Nazi Germany. So কতটা তার সততা আমরা এখানে সততার পরিচয় পাই, how much we understand the truthfulness and the honesty and the courage of this young girl who said absolutely point blank on the face of the panelists that after we defeat the Nazis, I will be with my Indians and then I will stand against you. Today I am in part of your espionage system. So সেটা একটা huge courage. আরেকটা যেটা আমি শুভশ্রীকে বলছিলাম early in the evening, that imagine this girl, such a young girl, tortured, battered, bruised, dignity taken away as a woman, and yet she did not give an iota of information to them. যেটা মাসিও বলছিলেন, একটা ইনফরমেশন দেন at a young age. I think these kind of people are God's children. They have exceptional ability. আপনার প্রশ্নটা নেব, আপনি প্রশ্ন করছিলেন। হ্যাঁ,
আমার একটাই প্রশ্ন ছিল। নমস্কার ম্যাডাম, উনি তো ধার্মিকভাবে খুব মানে আধ্যাত্মিক ছিলেন। ওনার এই যে যুদ্ধের সময় ওনার কোনো হ্যাঁ
চেঞ্জ করলো, রিলিজিয়ানটা চেঞ্জ করলো।
হ্যাঁ, রিলিজিয়ান চেঞ্জ করলো। এই যুদ্ধের সময় ওনার কোনো যে আধ্যাত্মিক অথবা ধার্মিক কোনো বিশ্বাস কি ওনার যুদ্ধের সাথে কোনো সম্পর্ক আছে?
না, ও শুধু ওর বাবার কথা মনে করতো। ওকে চার্চ অফ ইংল্যান্ড খ্রিস্টান বলতে হলো, না হলে তো সার্ভিস নেবে না, নামটা চেঞ্জ করলো। কিন্তু ওই যেটা আমরা অরবিন্দর সম্বন্ধে শুনি যে তিনি আধ্যাত্মিক, সেসব কিছু ছিল না। She believed in tolerance. She believed in love for people, others, love for others. কিন্তু কোনো আধ্যাত্মিক প্রেরণা তাকে দিল সেটা ছিল।
আর ম্যাডাম আরেকটা কোয়েশ্চেন আছে, যেরকম আমাদের আরও পলিটিক্যাল লিডার আছে, যেরকম আমাদের আজকে নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বসুর জন্মদিন, উনি বেসিক্যালি চরমপন্থী একটা ওয়ার্ড আছে, উনি ওটাই বিশ্বাস করতেন, যুদ্ধ করো যুদ্ধ করো। আর গান্ধীজি, নেহরুজি, উনি অ্যাজ এ ফাদার ফিগার আর লাইক প্যারেন্ট ফিগার, ওনারা সবসময় এটা বলতেন যে যুদ্ধতে কিছু নেই, সবসময় শান্তিতে
You gain through peace,
হ্যাঁ
non-violence.
উনি তো এই নূর ইনায়াত খান ম্যাডাম, উনি কোন মানে
ধর্ম।
হ্যাঁ
ওরা হচ্ছেন সুফি ইসলাম। ইসলামের আমাদের যেমন হিন্দুইজমের মধ্যে there is Vaishnavism, there is Saivism, এরকম আছে না, এই ইসলামের একটা
What she's asking is, like Netaji believed in war and fight back, and Gandhi and Nehru believed ahimsa, non-violence. To which of these two groups or classifications did Noor belong?
obviously violence, but with a non-violent background. Obviously violence, because the time was such that Nazi Germany was committing such barbarous acts of barbarity, nobody could stand before them. Destruction of all human values, nothing else. It is not merely a fight between two states or two countries, it's not that. It was a worldwide aggression, crushing democratic ideas, crushing liberal ideas with might. সেইটাই তো নূর ছিল নন ভায়োলেন্ট, সুফিরা নন ভায়োলেন্ট, সুফিরা ভায়োলেন্সে বিশ্বাস করে না। ওই যে বললাম না, ইট ওয়াজ এ পিরিয়ড অফ অ্যাসিড টেস্ট ফর দ্য ব্রাদার অ্যান্ড দ্য সিস্টার। ব্রাদার বিলায়ত টোল্ড Savani Bosri, we did not know what to do, but we can see the German atrocities which lie bare to us. So we had to take the decision that the aggression must be thwarted. That was their joint decision. And once she joined, it was not merely to serve as a nurse or to serve in a hospital, though these are commendable jobs, definitely. But she wanted to fight, to go on the war front. With her physical disability, suffering from chilblains, she could not use her fingers or feet properly.
আর ম্যাডাম আরেকটা কোয়েশ্চেন ছিল যে একজন মানে উনি তো খুব অল্প বয়স থেকে এই দিকে যুদ্ধ, তারপরে ভারতের দিকে খুব মানে স্বাধীনতা এইসবের দিকে ওনার খুবই একটা ঝোঁক ছিল, উনি পার্টও নিয়েছিলেন, এত বড় ওনাকে এত টর্চার সহ্য করতে হয়েছিল, এত অল্প বয়স থেকে ওনাকে এত কিছু দেখতে হয়েছিল। তো আমরা এই যুগে, বর্তমান যুগে একজন 15 বছরের একটা মেয়ে, একটা 25 বছরের একটা মেয়ে আর একটা 35 বছরের একটা মেয়ের, ওনার কোন আইডিওলজিটাকে নিয়ে চললে ওনার মতো যদি সেরকম সিচুয়েশন আসে আমাদেরকে হেল্প করতে পারে?
According to the situation, if you remain true to human values, যদি রিয়েলি তুমি তাকে মর্যাদা দাও, যে মানুষ হিসেবে তোমার এই যে এত সিনসিয়ারলি তোমরা নাটক করছো, আজকে যদি কোনো কারণে নাটকের কিছু করবে না, তোমরা প্রাণ দিয়ে রক্ষা করবে, তাই না? তোমরা কোনো ডিভিয়েশন সহ্য করবে না, কেউ রিহার্সালে আসছে না, কেউ আজে বাজে ব্যবহার করছে, তাকে তো তখনই চলে যেতে হবে। তোমরা সেখানে জয়েন্ট আছে। এইরকম প্রত্যেক ক্ষেত্রে, পড়াশোনা বলো, পারিবারিক ক্ষেত্রে বলো, এভরিওয়্যার আচ্ছা, ওকে আমরা বলতে দিয়ে
I would like to add, 15 বছর বয়সে, প্লিজ বসুন, at the age of 15 she decided to study. Her entire concentration of Noor Inayat Khan was to study. 15 বছর বয়সে শুধু পড়াশোনা করেছে, বাবার কাছ থেকে ফিলসফি শিখেছে। 25 বছর বয়সে সে ডিসাইড করলো আমার কি ফিলসফি হবে, আমি কি দর্শনে বিশ্বাস করব আর কিভাবে জীবনযাপন করব। আর 35 বছর বয়সে, I mean, she didn't see 35, but I'm sure if she was at the age of 30, so she already decided what to do. So at the age of 15, she studied. At the age of 25, she developed a sound philosophy, and she decided that this will be my action. যে বিলাত এর সঙ্গে ভাইয়ের সঙ্গে ডিসিশন নিল যে আমরা নাজি জার্মানি এগেইনস্টে ফাইট করব, আর শুরু করে দিল সেই ফাইটটা। আর 30 বছরে তো চলেই গেলেন, কিন্তু 35 যদি উনি থাকতেন, she would have continued her fight. So that's 15, 25 and 30 for her.
The right answer probably.
That's my perspective. I think we need to conclude the session. Ar karo kono montobbo, comment, anything?
ওরে বাবা সব বাড়ি চলে যাবে, আমি এখন না বলবো।
I would like to sum up what I have understood and what has touched me. A daughter of Hazrat Inayat Khan and Ora Debika, born in 1914, 1st June. From the very beginning of her birth, she was associated with war because she was born the background of the First World War, the first greatest catastrophe of human history, which we later see in the devastation of the Second World War, which was between the Allies and the Axis power, the Allies being United Kingdom, Russia and USA, and the Axis power obviously were Germany, Italy and Japan. Inayat practiced universal worship, and therefore Noor was brought up into that family of universal worship, tolerance, peace and understanding and respect. This left an indelible imprint on Noor, the feeling of tolerance. She became known in the literary circles of Paris, writing both in English and French, and finally the Jataka tales were published in England in 1939, and she contributed beautifully to the children's page in the Sunday Fiago and the children's hour of the Radio Paris. Music was in her blood, এটা আমরা সবাই শুনেছি। A pianist, a lovely harpist, ভীষণ skillfully harp বাজাতেন, a vocalist, studying child psychology, কত সুন্দর মন, studied child psychology in Sorbonne University, Paris. Her relationship did not work out with the man that she loved, Goldberg, who she met at the Music Academy of Paris. A 6 years relationship was destroyed, so emotionally she was devastated, and yet she decided to carry on with her work, with her passion, and she with her brother Vilayat Khan felt we must fight the aggression of the tyrant Hitler. So therefore this, I felt, was an iron determination on her part, and that led to rigorous military training. She was brought up so beautifully, like a very, very loved child, and yet she withstood that rigorous training. How many of us will be able to do that? If we are brought up so beautifully, and then to go into that rigorous training, and then she joined the Royal Air Force, as Shuvashree has beautifully told us. She learned how to do, the technical job of a wireless telegraphist, and this, I felt, she was reinventing herself. This at the age of 20s, she was 25, she was reinventing herself, and she decided that she wanted freedom for people, and what was her purpose. As I was sharing with this young lady's question, that in the interview of 28th August 1942, with so much happening around her, India going through the Quit India movement, she decided that I will not bow down to the British, although I'm coming for the interview, and I will say the truth, that today I'm with you, but tomorrow I will be with India, my country, against you. She joined the espionage system. We have seen how Mrs. Sengupta has written, Shuvashree has beautifully read it, the brilliant, exceptional way of her espionage system. She was so swift, she was so quick because of her military training, and her final phase of life and career marked by brilliant performances, unprecedented bravery, supreme self-sacrifice. Imagine this young girl hunted like an animal by the Nazi people, by the Gestapo, And in the German prison of Pforzheim, branded as a criminal, doomed, she was put in a cell where only those prisoners are kept who will not be allowed to live on rationed meal. Her feet was on sour cabbage throughout the day and potato peel. This is a way of taking away your life, your energy. She was not given food.
বাঁধাকপি পাতা আর আলুর খোসা, not even bread.
She couldn't meet her fellow prisoners because that will give her life. And she was a person who, if you give an inch, she will again come back to life and again be a threat to Hitler and Hitler's huge army. And Noor sent messages in that food bowl, scratching, and she sent those messages, scratching on the food bowl. And her last message, as you have read, Shuvashree, I'm leaving. Tortured to the highest degree, battered, bruised, dignity taken away, and we see what happened 15 September 1944. But Noor remained defiant. So much to learn from this person. She was shot in the head in the concentration camp of Dachau. 1946, posthumously, the Cross of Excellence was given by the French government, high civilian award. 1949, the Britishers recognized her, gave her the award of the George Cross, but by that time, everything was lost. And today, India doesn't remember her. I, as a professor, I have never heard it. I hang down my head in shame. I have never heard her name. I heard her name when I first read, and I was choked. I was sharing with Shuvashree. Well, she said while she was reading it, and she was given this article, she said that I felt so emotional. And today I shared with you, I was completely choked with emotions that, you know, when you think of these people, God has sent them and so much to learn from them, and they are no longer in the Indian psyche. They have never been part of the Indian psyche, and yet we need to bow down our heads to her because she fought for us. She fought for the greater world religion, which is humanity. And I would like to end by saying that, yes, Shravani Basu's book is indeed a work of atonement. I congratulate Mashi, Mrs. Maitreyee Sengupta, for her exceptional work. And I thank you for helping us to know who Noor Inayat Khan is, because many of us over here did not know. Today, we go back to our homes much more learned, much more in reverence, and of course, with a thought of spiritualism and what our duties and responsibilities are from now on in life ahead. We all do our duties, we all have our values, but I think this evening has added more to our philosophy of life. Thank you so much.
আমাদের কোনো ফর্মালিটি নেই।
Can I tell you one thing? Just because I have been working with Mrs. Sengupta, reading this, and over the last 1 week that I have been working on, she has been working on every line very minutely. And in the process, I have had the chance to think over this very, profoundly for the past 1 week, because I've been working with her, she's been reading it, telling me. And one thing that stands out for me in this is it is a story of immense inspiration. Yes, Noor Inayat Khan is, we are impressed, we are awed, we are, many things. But to me, I feel inspired that if a woman can do this, if push comes to shove, I can do this perhaps. That's the inner strength of a woman is what I perceive in something like this. Because if we, as women, we are never told or we are not aware of our own strengths. And a story like this makes us aware that yes, even as a woman, we have this kind of strength in us to face any kind of circumstances in our personal life, in our professional life, in the world. And to me, it's a story of inspiration actually. That women have that inherent strength in us that we are just not aware of it, and we are always, hiding behind our own fears of what we may not know that we can do.
Thank you so much. ना बनेंगे हम मोम की बत्तियां, बनेंगे हम जलती मशालें, तेज हवाओं से लड़ती मशालें, ऊंचे ऊंचे लहरों से लड़ती मशालें। ना बनेंगे हम मोम की बत्तियां, बनेंगे हम जलती मशालें. These are the lines written by our Guru, our founder member, Usha Ganguly ma'am. Today at Rangakarmee, we feel proud that Maitreyee ma'am has written such a strong message in the form of 14 pages about Inayat Noor Khan. We bow our heads down to all these three ladies here who came and made this evening special, where we understood one thing: when it comes to patriotism, gender doesn't matter. What matters is the will, the perseverance, and the intensity of human life to do something. Thank you, Maitreyee ma'am, today for coming. Thank you, Shuvashree ma'am. Thank you, Debika ma'am, for coming. Debika ma'am for coming. Rangakarmee had been a cultural hub, and ma'am has been one of the most oldest member and teacher of our Guru. We are honored that everyone is here today, and Jai Hind, thank you, good night.